Welcome to the Great Girlfriends podcast, where we discuss life, love, laughter, and everything in between. We're your hosts. I'm Sybil Amuti.
And I'm Brandis Daniel.
And we have a third great girlfriend today. Make some noise for Miss Jennifer Walsh.
Yay! Hi.
Hi.
We're so
Guys,
excited.
you don't even know how excited we are.
We're
we
so
walk
excited.
in this office, and first of all, she's super dope. Let's just put that out there.
Super dope. Like,
Get your pen and paper
super
now.
dope.
You'll want to be a part of this episode. She's beyond dope. Her office is dope. Her energy is dope. And she's so many nuggets for us today. And I'm so excited.
I'm so excited. I wish you guys could see in this office, though.
We'll
It's
take
the
some pictures.
most
Can we share your
amazing.
office?
Oh, please.
It's the most
all the way
amazing
swanky.
moment.
Yeah. and it's lined with all these fabulous books, all that I know you've been a part of and that you've helped to push to the New York Times bestseller list. So I'm just like in awe right now of you. How was your weekend?
My weekend was great. Chaos as usual, right? Three kids running in 3 different directions, 2 dogs, and trying to get ready for the Together tour. So it was controlled chaos. My husband says I'm the conquistador of chaos. He says he says Jennifer likes to create the chaos and then kind of hover above it, looking at me like, "What's your problem?" so that's my
Conquistador of chaos.
yeah.
That's great.
That pretty much says it.
I love it.
How was your weekend?
My weekend was amazing. It felt like a weekend. So Friday, I actually cooked hot wings,
Wow.
Memphis style.
Very good. Very
Yes,
good.
I did.
Nice.
And then on Saturday, I was out. Went to the Urban World Film Festival where I saw I Rise, a documentary I'm featured in, which was amazing to see it on the big screen. I cried the entire time.
I'm sure you did.
So
The entire time I cried. And then that night, I decided that my husband would go to my friend's event. And let me tell you, I took a hour and a half bath. I had wine. I listened to Kim. I ordered Indian. I had chips in bed. I even had regular
eating
juice.
in bed. Eating in
Like-
bed is it's like that's my idea.
Oh, I
Literally
know.
nirvana. Oh, I've arrived.
No. Sky was asleep, and I felt like I was 28 years old again, and I had just moved to New York.
Oh,
that's so
sweet. I love that.
Back
I know
in the day
exactly.
moment.
I know exactly what you
Oh,
mean.
it felt so good. All I kept saying was, "This feels so good."
Right,
This
right.
feels so
And you're
good.
secretly like, what time are they coming back?
Right.
Again?
Exactly.
Are they coming back tonight? Because they don't have to.
It felt
my night.
so good.
I
love it.
it.
I love it. I love me some me.
Yes. Love me some me. It was so wonderful.
Me time is critical. It's critical. It's like
I know.
essential to the
Yeah.
breathing. I did like PTA mom duty this weekend.
weekend?
Like I was hardcore ice cream social on Friday. I did the most. And I was scooping on this. Girlfriends, I have this really fancy boot on my right foot with like foot trauma or whatever. So I'm 2 weeks on this boot, but I was at the ice cream social on Friday night. We had a date night Saturday night, so we dropped the kids. And then Sunday we had the rec league, what's it called? The pep rally. I can't even think of it right now. The town pep rally for like the first graders through 8th graders in
So
football.
cute.
Wow.
So cute.
So
yeah.
cute. I can't.
Not the life I thought I would be living at this age. Like, how I end up here? I'm like, am I one of these moms? What the hell?
Yep.
But I'm here, and I love it. No, my son's doing great in football. But I digress. Anyway, Jennifer, we're excited. So, girlfriends, if you haven't by now Googled her to learn about Jennifer, we don't want you to take away what Wiki has to say about Jennifer. We want Jennifer to tell you just exactly who this fantastic woman is. So, Jennifer, who is Jennifer Walsh?
That's a big question.
I know.
So Jennifer Walsh is a person who believes in her core that storytelling has the power to transform lives.
Yes.
And so all the other labels that you can put on top of that, mother, sister, wife, friend, citizen, literary agent, all of these other things really comes from my powerful belief that stories are just magic. And when we listen to each other's stories and we really let them in, suddenly we don't see other, we just see, oh, me too, or oh, wow. That must be really challenging. And I just love the idea that through stories we can kind of be connected with people that we don't know.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I'm looking here at Alice Munro's short story collection, and she's an author that I have had the great honor to represent for many years. And one time someone sent a fan letter to me to forward to her, but it said in the letter that her mother was dying, and she was at this hospital with her mother, and she went to the library in the hospital, and there was a Alice Munro short story collection called Of Lives of Girls and Women. And she said that reading Alice's words at the worst time of her life made her feel like she had been found by a search and rescue team on top of a mountain, that those words were so powerful to her and so loving to her that at the worst time of her life, she felt less alone. So that's how I feel about who I am. I'm somebody who really believes in stories, and I want to just help build the highest mountain and give the biggest megaphone I can to stories.
Wow, that's amazing.
Which you've been able to do.
Which I've been, it's like, I mean, I feel a little bit like the little engine that could.
Yeah.
But that's what I've done, just always go with my gut and just kind of connect to the stories that feel true.
Yeah.
And then just do what I can to make sure as many people in the world see them.
I want to dig into the little engine that could.
Okay, good.
What made you say that?
Yeah.
It's just kind of how I have always seen myself. It's partially probably coming from, not the most ideal background, where I was not one of those A+ girls. People are always like, oh, do you have perfectionism? I'm like, no, I don't even get that. I wasn't like Little Miss Perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I was like, oh, why try for a B for an A when a B seems fine? Like, I really was just like, I didn't get it. I was like, what are you all stressing out about?
All day.
So, as a result of that, I was not exactly the ideal student, and kicked out of high school for non-attendance, and finally found my way to college. And there I just read Maya Angelou's work and Toni Morrison's work, and for the first time I was like, oh. First of all, I didn't even know authors were alive. I had no idea. I mean, what do they have you reading all the way through high school? Not now. Not now, but I'm going to be 50 in February, right? Everybody was dead.
That is true.
Everybody was white and everybody was dead.
That's so true.
So I didn't know.
I never thought about that.
Yeah. And so it wasn't until I got to college and I started reading stories that I could relate to at this incredibly core level that I was like, oh, I know I need to be near this. I didn't know what a literary agent was, so I had no idea what that meant. But I just knew that I wanted to be in the place where people were saying real things. And where they were saying, the 5% of stuff that nobody says, and they were saying that, and I just wanted to be near that. And so that's what I mean. Like, I didn't go to a fancy school. I didn't have, great grades. I just found my way to a literary agent and said, can I work for you? And then the next and the next and the next. Kind of scrappy,
Wow, I love that though.
Yeah.
Because a lot of times our great girlfriends who see a woman in your position, and we read all of the amazing things that you've been able to accomplish and how many books you've had on the New York bestseller list and how many times your author's been featured on Oprah. And they just say, okay, this is somebody who's always had it together. She knew what she wanted to do.
Hell no.
No, literally. I'm serious. I'm
Perception.
serious. They say she knew what she wanted to do when she was a young girl. She, went to these
Clear
private
roadmap.
schools her entire life.
Absolutely.
Like, you literally see everything about your life looks like perfection.
Yeah, well, first of all, no. And one of the things that I've always tried to do is to show people my seams, because I just
That's so good.
because I just because
using that. We feeling that.
well, there's a great phrase. By the way, I'm a big taker of other people's phrases. So, and I actually have a jar of them over there. We can bring them over and pull them out later.
Yes.
But don't. I would always say, don't compare your insides to my outsides. In other words. I got a lot going on inside too, and it doesn't look like these fine shoes, right? So what I would say is that I am still following the unfolding. I'm still not 100% sure where this is going to lead me, and I don't even have a real feeling about where it has to lead me. I just want to make the next right decision and the next right decision. And that has served me well. But I mean, I spent 5 years as somebody's assistant. I was literally I just didn't care. I just wanted to do the best job. And so I never asked for a promotion. I never asked for a raise. I was literally putting a chicken in the oven for her daughters and going back downstairs and doing work. And then I would run out and get her cleaning. I never cared. And yet that was 5 years. And yet by the time I was 31, I bought that business from her.
Wow.
Wow.
I love
But
it.
but not because I had this plan, but because I just always did what felt right to me, you know? And I don't always do it right. I don't always do the thing right, but I always do the right thing. And that really so helps
good.
me, you know? So
You're
It
like
gave
a
me
rapper.
butterflies. I
She's dropping bars left and right, left and right.
no,
I
I'm
wish
the
you
queen.
could
I'm the
take
queen
note
of the
right
cliche. I am the queen of the cliche. No, seriously.
I need
No,
pen and paper myself.
know.
I
I'm
can
sitting
hardly
over
read.
here. I got butterflies.
We needed this.
I
We had a
literally
cry- we had a cry session
We had a whole cry
right
session
before we came
this
in.
morning.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So,
we
I
needed
mean,
this
we
so
needed
bad.
this. This
We're gonna
is
rise
we're
up together.
inhaling.
We're gonna rise up together.
Oh my
love
goodness.
that.
Because it's so hard, I think, for women to understand, like, your mission is on the inside of you and it was always there.
Yeah.
And it's some sort of unveiling that takes place over time and you being able to go after whatever that gut is leading you to do.
That's
and
everything.
It sounds like that
what you're
was
saying
your
is
track.
everything to me.
Yeah.
And it's really, it's the reason I wanted to create this Together tour was because I wanted people to realize that every single person has a purpose. I don't care, regardless of your circumstances. If you have breath in your body, you are here for a reason. And that it's not a luxury to figure that out.
Yeah.
Figuring out
It's not a
the
luxury.
purpose of your life will change everything for you.
Yeah.
Because once you know what your purpose is, then you can connect to people who share that purpose.
Right.
And suddenly everything you're doing is part of a larger thing.
Yeah.
And it really, what I say is once you know your purpose, you can be overworked, but you can't be overwhelmed.
Right.
Because
Right.
overwhelmed
Right.
is really
Right.
about who am I? I'm lost.
Yeah.
What am I meant to be
Yes.
doing?
The search.
The
Yeah.
search.
That's
The little voice
so
is coming
true.
for me. It's pulling at me. And the thing is that once you have a sense of what your purpose is, then you can just get really clear on next right step. And
It's so true.
right?
Because
And-
people look at you and they say, how do you manage all of this? And you're like, I just do because I love it all.
Yeah.
I love it all.
And that, by the way,
it's
and
part
you-
of my
Totally.
madness is mine.
And, I'm the conquistador of chaos. And I'll tell you what, if I don't love it, it's going to be deprioritized to the point where it's going to go away.
that's
But
so
which isn't to say that, look, everybody's got to go to the dentist to get their teeth
Yeah,
cleaned, right?
yeah,
Everybody has to do basic maintenance. And that includes work. So
Right.
35% of your day is teeth cleaning, no matter what you do and no matter who you are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, for me, there's so many elements of motherhood and my work life that's teeth cleaning.
Yeah.
But if 70% or 65% of your life can serve your purpose, then it's like time expands and suddenly you have all this energy because
Yeah.
when you're living in the purpose, then time,
Yes.
it's energy giving as opposed to
Yes,
energy
it is.
dropping.
Yes.
Oh, it's so obvious you guys are living your purpose with this podcast.
Yeah.
No, it's so obvious.
Yes.
And it's contagious.
Yeah.
It is.
I need to dig a little bit, and I'm going to start probing because you haven't done this journey alone. Like, you've had your husband by your side
Yes.
for 30 years.
Absolutely.
And this was your high school sweetheart.
Yes.
And you guys have built a family. And so it's not just this woman who has this major
Hardly.
career that's
No,
changing
hardly.
lives. It's you scrambling eggs in the morning and grabbing backpacks to
Totally.
get to
Totally.
school.
I mean,
Tell me about
well-
how do you create harmony throughout all the different facets of your life.
Well, you picked up the most important word for me, which is harmony. I mean, this is the way I was raised. Like my brother, my sister, and I just make it work because if you told on your brother or your sister, you all three got punished.
Yes.
So unless you were bleeding or had a fever, it's just like nobody wants to hear it.
Right.
So that's kind of the way I raise my kids.
Yeah.
So, my kids take care of each other very much, and they know they're now older, so I'm not in the same phase you all are in.
Yeah.
My kids are 21, 18, and 13.
Wow.
But I mean, my kids, it's not politically correct, but my kids were raised to know they were responsible for one another. When my daughter turned 21, I said, congratulations. Now, if God forbid I die, you're the legal guardian of your little brother. She's like, so I'm not getting that pocketbook I sent you the link on?
No, you get kids.
So, I mean, I really believe that we're in it together and we just have to be responsible for each other. The strength of the pack is the wolf, but the strength of the wolf is the pack.
Yeah.
So it's like, we're pack.
Here she
We're
is
pack
again.
mentality.
Yeah.
We're a pack mentality in my family. And so, we just kind of root for each other. We ride for each other hard, and there's zero tolerance for anything other than that.
Yeah.
So my husband's the greatest of all times, but he's a handful, and I'm a handful, and my kids are handfuls.
Yeah.
But I think we're all off the reservation sometimes, but we're all off together.
Right.
It's just-
No,
So,
I get it completely.
Yeah. So it's we were laughing before we started talking, and I was late because, I wanted to be on time, but then my son forgot his gym uniform, and then if he didn't get it, he'd have to go to detention. So I'm running here, I'm running there. But that just the whole time I'm just trying to connect wherever I can because, this is not a dress rehearsal, right? So if something, I'm not trying to get to the next place. I'm just trying to be in the place that I am.
Absolutely. We have so many girlfriends, Jennifer, that struggle with being uncomfortable.
Right.
And they really I can't even tell you how many emails we get. We have a Facebook group of over about 12,000 women.
Mm-hmm. God bless you.
And we get so many women in that group, and it's a very active group, very active. And they're always talking about kind of, how do I take the next step? I'm fearful. I'm scared. I don't know what to do. I don't know if this is the right step. And in Lean In, I know that you talked about, taking the step from being the owner of this company to going into the uncertain when you
right. Well, so when I sold my little company,
walk us through
yes,
that.
absolutely.
Okay.
But first, I just want to say that to me, you got to show up before you're ready. You got to show up scared. You just gotta you got to show up.
Yeah.
Because to me, the only kind of failure there is not showing up.
Yeah.
No matter what happens,
That's so true.
once you show up, no matter what happens,
We're like the background singers.
I love it. Let's just, by the way, there's a new third person that's coming every week on this now. No, but to me, the only failure is not showing up.
Yeah.
Because once you show up and you're willing to be authentic and vulnerable, then whatever happens is not happening to you, but it's happening for you. You maybe don't know right now what the situation is,
Right.
but it's like as long as you're willing to show up and be vulnerable and be authentic, something's happening for you. The universe is always, in my opinion, the universe is always working it out in your favor.
Yeah.
Unless you're not getting off your couch, in which case it's very hard to do. And believe me, there are times when I just can't get off my couch. Sometimes you just gotta let the dragons win. There's just some days where it's like, nope, I'm calling in fat today. It's just not happening today.
I know. Yes.
We've learned that. We've learned that.
I call those mental health days. Mental health days.
It's my day.
Yeah, it's just not happening today. Yeah, it's not happening today.
That's so powerful.
Oh yeah.
So part of that I'm hearing you say is you knew on the inside what you want, and you allow that connection with the universe and with God in you to propel you forward.
Yeah.
And you always show up, and you said vulnerability, which is the biggest lacking.
Yes.
It's the V that we never want to connect with as women. Women feel so afraid.
Women in V's.
You say vulnerability. I mean, we had, at our conference, we had conversations about vulnerability, and everyone cringes at the thought of being able to surrender part of their controls to an unknown.
I know.
But that's the freedom.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I highly recommend Brene Brown's Daring Greatly and Rising Strong. Brene Brown is an unbelievable thought leader, and she gave a talk on vulnerability for a TED Talk that just really changed my life because I had kind of been doing a version of it, but once you have words, it sort of scaffolds your actions. And so once she sort of really kind of articulated what it means to allow yourself to be vulnerable, a lot of it does have to do with shame. I mean, there's something very shameful about feeling vulnerable, and yet you can't really be whole without it. And I mean,
you can't create connections.
Totally, nothing. And yet, for some strange reason, we're kind of propelled towards living a life that doesn't make us vulnerable, and it's not possible. And I think once you get comfortable, in my opinion, once you get comfortable with being vulnerable and with the not knowing, all of a sudden powerful things start happening, right?
Yes, when you release and you surrender.
Totally. I mean, imagine how that first caterpillar felt.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of crazy, right?
Yeah.
So I just always think that, whatever dream you have for yourself, the universe has an even bigger dream for you. But, first it's going to have its way with you.
Oh, what do you mean by that?
Well, I just think that when you act vulnerably, it's not going to work out exactly the way you imagined it will. You know, in other words, I stood up and told my truth, and then
The whole world loved me.
Yeah, no, that didn't happen, right? I stood up and told my truth, and the phone didn't ring. At first.
A bunch of people said no.
Yeah, a bunch of people
said
said no, right?
Yeah.
And it's just so that's how it is sometimes until you get to the next step. And you have to keep saying, I do anyway. I don't know how other people do it, but like, I keep saying to myself, what's the lesson for me in this? What's the lesson for me in this? In fact, my kids hate this, but like they'll come home, this teacher is treating me, and I always say, so that teacher is here not to teach you a lesson in the school sense, but in the life sense. What is it that teacher, I'll talk about my son Wyatt specifically, that teacher is so disrespectful to me. Okay, what is it that teacher is doing? Well, that teacher is, not listening to my opinion and making me feel really small. Oh, I hear you. That must feel awful. You're such a loving person. That must feel terrible to feel small like that. But let me ask you a question. When are you giving your opinion? And it ends up right in the middle of class when everybody else is trying to talk. And so,
when I want to.
Yeah, exactly. when the spirit moves me. So it's like not about making anybody wrong in it, but to say like, what is that person? Well, this particular case with my son, that other teacher is there to help my son understand that there's a time and a place for everything, and that he has to manage his airtime a little bit. So I'm always looking for the lesson in anything, in rejection, but also in acceptance, you know?
But
and so back to what you were asking me.
I want to know that. I really want that story.
So my the woman that I was roasting chicken for and babysitting for her kids, I loved her so much. I would have stayed there as her assistant forever, honestly. I started to sell a few books, and that was great. And then about 8 years into my working there, she came to me and said that her husband wanted her to sell the business. And I was 30, I think I was 30 years old. I was pregnant with my second kid. My husband was a full-time student. I literally had $4,000 in the bank. And she's like, would you like to buy my company? It was like she said, would you like to take a spaceship to Mars? Sure.
Crazy.
I'm insane, right? So she said, so she explained to me how she was going to loan me the money, but then I was going to pay it back. And I mean, I didn't even have a lawyer. I was so innocent. And I mean, my joke about this is that I didn't even realize that the money that would come in from the company, I had to pay taxes before I could pay back the loan. So I had done all pre-tax dollars, and then I had half the amount of money. So for 3 years, forget meat sauce, we were eating meat flavored sauce. Sort of tastes like meat.
It's a word for now.
Yeah, but it was fine. But I just kept kind of believing that it was the right thing to do. And then once I took over that company, I changed the name to the Writer's Shop because I didn't want it to have a person's name. I wanted it to be bigger than that. And I wanted all the people that worked together to feel like they had ownership over the process. I'm a huge believer in teamwork and co-creation. And so I just did that, and it grew from 3 people, 4 people, 5 people, 6 people, 7 people, 8 people, 9 people. And then ultimately I felt that I had to sell to a larger agency because I loved my little speedboat, but I felt like I really wanted to be part of a Noah's Ark. Because I could see the changing environment happening, and I wanted my authors to be, cared for and represented. So that's when it's cool.
Wow. Take note, girlfriend. She didn't know anything about business.
Nothing. I still don't. I mean, let me just start with a few things. First of all, God's honest truth. I can't tell my right from my right hand from my left hand. I can barely, like a clock that has the hands, I'm always stopping to go, is it 1:45? Or like I have some kind of weirdness, but it never let it stop me. I just surround myself with people who do know. And I'm also really honest. Like I always say, oh guys, don't give me pie charts, don't give me that kind of thing. Talk to me. Because I know what truth sounds like. I know what truth feels like. I know. So I just kind of make my way,
And the thing I feel like writers probably love about you is that you're so passionate. Guys, I wish you could feel what I feel right now.
I know.
Like you can feel it. It almost makes you want to cry. Because the passion that she has is so incredibly strong.
It's sincere.
It's sincere.
And that's the thing. It's the difference between people working a job and living out a mission. And like you're on a mission, and as a woman, I think you've been such an influencer in that space as a human first. Yeah. Because, you know, a lot of times we take women to the table and we're like, as a woman, I feel the need to do things. As a human, you've taken on a mission and you've carried it out and you keep propelling forward and forward and forward. Now as a woman in the boardroom, are you still the only woman in the boardroom?
Yeah, presently I'm working to change. I'm working to change that.
How important is it for you to be woman in the boardroom or a person in the boardroom?
Well, this is an interesting thing because you say human. I really see myself as like being here on behalf of humanity. The truth is, a lot of the work that I do does revolve around women, but it really is a balance. In other words, the pendulum needs to swing. But I am there to try to create a world where my sons are as comfortable and thriving and happy as my daughter is. And you know, I've just really connected a lot with mission-based women like Sheryl Sandberg and Sue Monk Kidd and Ariana Huffington and you know, Brene Brown, because I can feel the truth of what they're saying. But I have many men that I work with and absolutely adore. Ken Burns, the documentary filmmaker who really kind of tells stories about the dead. You know, Howard Schultz, who founded Starbucks and who's just one of the most heart-centered leaders you could imagine. So I love people that are sort of living their purpose, whatever it is. And you know, that's really where my desire to sort of bring people together comes from, because just like we're sitting here together, we're holding hands, it just feels good.
Yes, it feels so good.
As much as I love reading alone in my house or turning on the internet, there's something kind of like solitary about that experience. And even though I feel connected to people when I do that, I want that Bruce Springsteen concert feeling where I'm just talking to a total stranger in the bathroom and we're holding hands and crying.
Yes.
And so I've wanted to create an experience where people could have that actual experience and then go back into the virtual world and then come back into the actual world. So
and this is the conference.
Yes, and this is how the Together Conference came to be. So I have had great experiences. I mean, pinch me experiences. I was part of the team that brought Oprah Winfrey's The Life You Want tour around the country, which was literally my dream come true. I mean, I had to create new dreams after that.
Oh my goodness.
But, you know, as amazing as I loved that experience, everybody had to go home at the end of it. And I didn't want to go home. I mean, I wanted to go home to my family, but I wanted to keep that 250,000 hearts beating as one. I wanted to keep that going. And so we created the Together Tour, which is really a multi-generational, community-minded tour. And when I say multi-generational, it's because I just think people are tired of being millennials over here, 35 to 50s over here, seniors over here. I mean, just everybody get in your lane. We've just completely lost that intergenerational wisdom. I mean, I don't know what I would do if I didn't have my 21-year-old daughter saying, "No, Mom, this is the way the pronouns work now." Thank God, you know? Because a lot of people are so scared they don't even want to ask the question. And so I wanted to create an intergenerational movement where all you need to come is a giant open heart and a desire for a better life and a better world. That's it. And tickets start at $25.
Which I could not believe. Because guys, conference tickets, you guys know.
Oh my gosh.
Like a cheap ticket is $125.
$25.
Exactly.
Like,
well, we committed ourselves to that. In fact, in the future, when we're talking next year, hopefully it'll be pay what you can. But for right now, we had to put $25. It's unheard of. And what we're hoping is that we're going to be going to evening events, 6:30 to 10:30. We thought anybody who wants to live a better life and make a better world can afford one evening and $25, right? And so we're going to be in Portland, we're going to be in LA, Atlanta, Chicago, New York, and Denver. We just picked those cities based on like, you know, where we felt like the love was coming from, and then we're going to keep adding more and more cities as we go. And then after the event, so the speakers on the event will blow your mind. I mean,
so take us through. Okay, so great. So who's leading the tour?
Okay, so all 4 of the core speakers are co-creators. We've been working for 18 months together on this. They're not just speakers; they're together family. And Glennon Doyle Melton is chief among that. She's sort of like the captain of our team. And her book is #1 on the New York Times bestseller list right now. It's called Love Warrior, and it's Oprah's book club pick. I mean, Glennon, I've never seen anything like her in my life. I mean, laughter through tears is the exact thing that every single person will be doing the entire time that she's speaking. She is the most honest, hopeful, hilarious, warm, amazing human being. I don't know. I can't say enough about her.
Wow.
I can't say enough about her. I don't even know how I lived my life before I met her because I love her so much.
Oh.
That's fantastic.
So her blog is called Momastery, and anyway, she's extraordinary. And so she's really kind of the story of me.
Okay.
Everybody's going to hear her story, and they're going to find their story inside her story. And it's her whole thing is, you're not broken. You don't need to be fixed. You know, this is just really about truth telling. And so that's her. And then after her is an amazing yoga, probably the most famous yoga instructor in the world. Her name is Sean Korn. And she's going to really help us breathe. And find out, where's the trauma living in your body?
Yes.
You know,
Oh,
why
my
are you
goodness.
so reactive all the time? What are you reacting to? Because 9 times out of 10, you're reacting to stuff that you've been carrying around for 15 or 20 years that has nothing to do with the present situation. So she's going to really help us stop and breathe and listen to that little voice. And then Valerie Kaur is an extraordinary millennial. She's a Sikh, and she's an interfaith activist, and she's going to really tell us about how to find our purpose and get it into action. Really cross the bridge of bravery and get moving. And then Dr. Jackie Lewis, an extraordinary leader of the Black Lives Matter movement, and just one of the great preachers I've ever heard. And she's going to have us all singing and holding hands and dancing.
I love it.
And then and then along the evening, I'm actually the MC. Lord deliver me. Lord deliver me.
I love it. The energy will be amazing.
I'm like I've spent my whole life so proudly being the world's best kept secret, but now I'm going to be stepping on that stage.
Yes.
For one reason and one reason only. I was free. Yeah. I had to be there anyway, and I was free. So I was like, okay.
Look, but let me tell you, here I am thinking she's free.
Liberated.
She's like, she was
no,
free.
my calendar's clear.
Free money.
She said free. I go, oh yes, you are free.
No. It costs nothing.
I'm talking about the dinero.
Within budget.
Exactly.
Well, your great girlfriends are available too. We'd love to come cheer you on.
Oh,
we have
that
to
is
cheer
great.
you. Oh,
That
this
is great. So during the course of the evening, what I will be doing is actually taking you through 3 amazing exercises that we have a purpose partner, lifereimagined.org, and they're actually a non-for-profit that's dedicated to helping people find their purpose and shift into their life, into their purpose. And so they've spent gajillions of dollars creating a purpose test, which we're calling a manifesto test.
Nice.
And so we're going to walk through the manifesto. Everybody's going to create their own manifesto. And it's based on the breadcrumbs of your life. Like, it's so cool. It's like color forms for adults. You're going to love it. And then the second exercise is about putting that manifesto into action. And then the third exercise is really about the circle of people in your life and really identifying who makes you stronger.
Come on.
Who's there for you when you need it. Who always makes you laugh, right?
Yes.
So really, and then the final part of the evening that we're so excited about is, instead of going home and losing all that ignited magic and energy, we've created this incredible app that's free, and you can download it, and they're going to be together circles where we're going to be giving original content to people, and every month we're going to give them opportunities to actually get together with their together circles and volunteer or get into social action or mentor. So if you have 8 girlfriends, great, invite them. But if you don't, and you're new into a town and you really, you want to make a change but you don't know how, it's going to be like Match.com for purpose. Yes.
So amazing.
So
amazing.
And then at each stop, we have a special guest star. We call those like the people that are living purpose in action. So we got Gina Rodriguez in LA. Oh, she's amazing. We got Abby Wambach and Gina Rossero in Portland. We have Sophia Bush in Chicago. We have Sierra in Atlanta, and we have Alicia Keys in New York.
Awesome.
I mean, every one of them goddesses, and every one of them just took a leap of faith with us. I mean, look, people said, you're going to sell 25,000 tickets to a thing nobody's ever heard of, and I said, yup, that's exactly what we're going to do. That's exactly what we're going to do.
When do these tickets go on sale?
They're on sale now at togetherlive.com.
Okay.
How can our girlfriends connect with you on social and together?
Togetherlive.com, and our Facebook page, which is also Together Live. Yeah, we're reading everything. We're all over it. Every week we've been doing weekly webinars for free for people that have bought tickets, and people are blowing us away. I mean, the stories that people are telling us. I mean, listen, if self-help was working, I love self-help, right? But the first word's self.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, come on, guys. I mean, if self-help was working, we wouldn't all be lonely and anxious and depressed and addicted and all these things, right? We got to go from the me to the we.
Yeah.
And like, listen, I'm out there. I'm showing up scared too.
Yeah.
I'm showing up scared too.
Yeah.
But I just know the time is now, and I just know we're better together. We just are.
Yeah. I just want to leave the girlfriends with one more powerful thing, because Jennifer has gotten to a point in her career where you don't have to give back. Like, you don't have to do this.
It's true. It's so true.
Together could never happen, and you'd still be amazing.
Thank you.
So contribution as a part of your legacy, your brand model, we are always, advocating for women to see the need to contribute.
Yeah.
To go, like,
Life is a service job, sweetheart.
Yeah.
Life is a service job.
Don't
as soon
you
as you
have
make
enough
that
on your
shift,
plate?
I don't.
Would
It's
you
so
do
funny.
this?
It's funny that you should say that, because people I work with always say to me, "Don't you have enough on the plate?" My plate just is. It is so full, and yet at the same time, I just feel a very steady amount of energy around it, because it's all my individual purpose. I have it down to a sentence: is shining the light forward so people feel less alone. That's the reason I was put on this earth.
That is beautiful.
And it took me a while to get it to that place. I didn't always know I always kind of had a sense. People wrote in my 8th grade yearbook, thank you so much for telling me to keep a journal. It changed my life. Or thank you for encouraging me to tell my dad how I was feeling. So I was always kind of in the process of shining the light forward so people felt less alone. But I didn't know exactly until I did my purpose work, and then I found it out. And now, whenever I'm not in purpose, I can feel it, right? All of a sudden, I'm not feeling well, and things aren't going my way. And I've kind of found that magical place between, as Ariana Huffington says, between making it happen and letting it happen.
Girlfriends, we hope you took lots of notes, because there was so
all
many.
All of you come to our events, come find us.
Yes.
We need you.
Yes.
Yes.
We're going to get the schedule and make sure we can post it on our
Perfect.
website and our group and all the social, and we'll do all that
Yay.
stuff.
Love it.
So we close out by thanking our awesome husbands. And
Yay.
my husband, Kwaku, is my rock. I love him. So, babe, thank you so much for all that you do to support me. I love you.
And I want to thank my husband, Rich Daniel, who's awesome and amazing, and I love him.
And I will thank my delicious husband, Patrick Edward Walsh, who has had the front line view of my life since I was 18 years old.
So sweet.
So I'm gonna be 50. I'm gonna be 50 on Valentine's Day. So it's been quite a of course Valentine's.
This 50 is fine. 50 is so
She looks
fine.
amazing, by the way.
Thank
Amazing,
you.
head to toe.
Yes, and we thank our kids. So my kids are Sam and Dylan. My son is 7. My daughter's 5, and I just adore. They give me wings. Like I'm so
I love
hooked on
that.
those two.
I get it. I've got 3 kids. My 13-year-old is Wyatt, my 18-year-old is Griffin, and my 21-year-old is Hadley. And they all think it's so cool that I'm gonna go on stage and be the MC. They're like, "Go, Mom!" So I love them all for giving me the courage to show up scared and show up anyway.
So cool.
And my little mess of a daughter, who's 11 months, is going to be 1 in a few weeks. But oh my God, I'm not ready to hear what she has to say when she's like talking.
You don't need to be ready.
Today,
you don't need to be ready.
Today she gave me a stare down in the car. A full-on stare down. So I started staring back at her, and then she was like, "Okay, I'm not gonna look away."
You cannot beat her in a staring
I was
contest.
like, "What?"
Yeah.
No,
So,
you just gotta bow down to that.
Just apologize. Like I'll do better tomorrow, baby. I'll do better tomorrow.
Totally. I just remember when my daughter was almost 3 years old, my husband and I had a fight, and she came in my room and she said, "Mom, you want to be right or you want to be in love?"
Oh my
goodness! Oh God, I want both. My little
awesome.
Buddha.
And she was 3?
Yeah.
Oh
That
my
is hilarious.
goodness.
Do you want to be right or you want to be in love? I want both. Okay.
So yes, we want to just thank you, kids, husbands, and girlfriends. We thank you for trusting us as your go-to source for everything life, love, and laughter. You can always listen on iTunes, Stitcher, Blueberry Podcast Bean, Podcast Republic, every podcast service. We're there.
Absolutely.
Yes.
And check us on our social, on our Instagram,
The Great Girlfriends,
on our Twitter.
_Great GFS.
And please check out our Facebook group. We're 12,000 plus strong. There's a lot of great conversation happening in there. And that's at
The Great Girlfriends.
awesome.
Yes, so you can post your questions, share with your friends.
Keep listening and keep being a great girlfriend.
I'm Sybil.
And I'm Brandis.
And I'm Jennifer Rudolph Walsh.
And we're signing off.
Bye, girlfriends. Aww.